Hello. So I'm just gonna go real quick over the dialogue system and through ink. So this is the sample text that I have right here, just for basically. I was working on something a little bit bigger to make it kind of fit a little better, but to make sure like I've gone through. Basically, I did quite a bit of dialogue to test all the different options that are in ink to make sure that we can incorporate everything like choices and stuff like that, so that I can figure out how to actually do that, so that it's not just like just straight sentences. The only thing I know how to do, but that isn't done yet. This is just being integrated for this is the just base level, just straight dialogue boxes for to merge it tonight, because I don't think I'll be done with the bigger scope of things later. Like the bigger one right here is what a dialogue of kind of a bigger system would look like, with these different choices and going to different areas, stuff like that. Um, so that's a bit bigger scheme, but that's not done yet. So this is just getting the dialogue to show up specifically, which is in the game. I integrated it. It's been added. The extension has been added in. And basically, pretty simply, we just have an NPC here, which has a visual cue, a trigger, and a visual for the actual NPC. Right now, it's just a box. And basically, how this works is we'll walk up to it, and the visual cue will appear when you get into the range. And then, as long as that visual cue's up, and you press, right now it's the F button to interact, the dialog box will come up. Um, Also, another thing we have to talk about is, um, right now, if we're doing this via hard coding, the actual buttons, the button to get the next line in the dialogue cannot be the same as the button that interacts. Because when I press F again, it just replays hello again. It like redoes the whole thing. So it can't be the same button, which is kind of gets in the way of like when you think of like an actual game. Because when you're thinking of an actual game, like when you go up to an NPC, normally you press the A button if you're on like a controller, and then to get to the next line, you press the A button again. Um, the way to get around that is if we make like an actual input manager, and we have a um, we can code in a submit button function, and we can code a interact button function, and if we code those two functions, they can be the same button. But we just, with just straight hard coding it, can't be the same button. So to interact right now is F, and to go to the next line of the dialogue would be the T button. That obviously can change, it doesn't matter, but that's just what it is right now. And the way this works basically is I had to go into Singletons and put in a dialogue manager, and the dialogue manager takes on a dialogue panel and a dialogue text. And in our canvas, we have a panel and a text, which is basically just, this text box right here. That can obviously be changed when we have some art for it. So that's kind of what we're looking at right here. And then basically how it works is to make a asset for dialogue, we just come in here and we press create, and we go to ink, and that'll create an ink file. And then for our trigger, we have this sample dialogue trigger script, and we just throw in the visual cue right here to make that pop up, and we just throw in the sample text, and this will work. Whatever text we throw in here will work for that. And so once this trigger sees this, it'll start the sample text, and then we have in our dialogue manager, this is the script that kind of takes us through like the instances of things. So the trigger is pretty simple. We just check for like in ranges of this the visual cue, and then we just check in ranges via the player tag. So it has to be tagged player, and then if it's in range, then the visual cue shows up, and then if it's not, then it obviously doesn't show up. And then we're looking for F right now, and that will make an instance of the dialogue mode. And then we go into our dialogue manager, and this is a singleton, and it will simply like instantiate it, and there can only be one dialogue manager, so that's there. So then we just get an instance for that. And then at the start, it obviously sets the dialogue is playing to false, and it sets the panel to false. And then we're just going to have an update function to where, say, if it's not playing, just return so that it doesn't do anything. And then if it is playing, they press the T line to go to the next line of story, which is just this continue story function, which just says, can it continue? If it can, go to, or continue, and if it can't, exit the dialogue mode. And then exit dialogue mode just simply sets it to false, false, and then sets this text back to nothing. And then enter dialogue mode just adds a new story. So at the beginning, it makes the story with this inc JSON file, and then it sets these both to true so we can see it, and then it continues this. So that's the simple version of how this works. I will still be working on it this week to try and implement this to make it to where we have a little bit more options, and when we do actually implement lines of dialogue, I know how to, like, if he wants to add options or whatever, I know how that works and how to code it to make it work. But right now, this is just as simple as it gets. Just goes up, gets the dialogue to play and stuff. So, what it is right now. Thank you.